say, well, we've replaced Israel. Israel's finished. And Paul says in verse 25, for I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits. That blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. See, there's nothing that needs to be done except for the fact that that last person is saved. We talk about election and that kind of thing, regardless of where you come from on that issue, on the specifics. God has a body that He calls the elect, and there is an established number, and there's going to be a last person saved. And when that last person is saved, and only God knows who that is, I was reading Wilbur Chapman and some of these guys back in the early 20th century, before Israel was back in the land, when all this stuff was still very hypothetical. I mean, we're spoiled. I mean, it's right there on TV for us to see. Back 150 years ago, they were having prophecy conferences with D.L. Moody and R.A. Torrey and those guys, and none of this had come to pass yet, a lot of it. And they were talking about how, Israel's going to come back and everything. Israel is going to be in the land, and that last elect is going to be saved. It's going to be revealed who that last elect is to us. God already knows. But what I was going to get at in those prophecy conferences is they had an old man get up and pray. And you can't hear the audio. They didn't record it, but you read it and you can just hear him. And he's saying, oh Lord, put a fire in us to preach the gospel and get that last one saved so we can get out of here. And that's what I'm thinking. Let's get busy and get this thing over with, man. But read verse 26 with me now. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. You see, that's another piece of the puzzle. People, I'm trying not to be mean, but they say, this can't be a fulfillment of prophecy. Israel's not even following God. They're in unbelief. That's what it says. It says that Israel will be in unbelief, and when Jesus comes back, that's when their sins will be covered. They'll come back and they'll mourn for the one that they pierced and they rejected. And in mourning as for an only son, then they will believe. Not by faith, but by sight. But in believing and receiving Him at His return, that's when Israel's saved. So the fact that Israel is in Israel and in unbelief, you said it earlier tonight, 80% of them profess to be either atheist or agnostic. That's exactly what God said would happen. So that piece of the puzzle, the stage is set. There'll be a remnant that are saved, and there are in Israel today. There's a remnant, but not that's a small remnant. Very small group. Let's look at Luke chapter 17. I think every time you look at these things and you realize this is what God says is going to happen, and the stage is set. And this is what God says is going to happen, and the stage is set. It just starts to boil over in you. Get you excited. Let's start in verse 26. Just read 26 to 28. And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven, and destroyed them all. Read 30 with me. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. See that? Now, what was it like during Noah's day? Wicked. The thoughts of men were evil continually. That there was violence, and it wasn't just wars. It was between individuals. Because we are able to live in neighborhoods where we don't have drive-bys, we can kind of become insulated and not realize that it's more dangerous in the streets of the big cities in America than it is in Afghanistan today. Here in Columbus, Chicago, New York, L.A., it is safer in Afghanistan than it is in those cities. But because there's constantly people being killed and shot down, then we kind of become numb to it, and they don't say anything about it. That's how wicked and violent it has become. And that only for political reasons do you hear about the violence. Because someone's against a war, you hear about it. Well, I wish they'd end the war too. But that doesn't nullify all the violence over here in our cities. And what was it like in Lot's day? Sodom and Gomorrah. And there's a revival of the whole sodomite movement today. And now they're even wanting, we said they were marrying wives. Well, in our day, they want to go a step further. Yeah. And make men and men wives with and women with women. And they just thought, everything's fine. It isn't going to rain. There's not going to be fire and brimstone coming from the sky. You guys are nuts. That's what they say about us. You go around telling everybody you believe in the rapture. Cuckoo. You crazy. That's the way they talk about us. That's the way they talked about Noah and Lot. Right up to the time that the waters came down and right to the time the fire and brimstone came down. And I think it's a picture of the believer being raptured and taken in the ark and taken out of the city, and that's the rapture. But that is a picture of what we see today. I was just telling Annie again, we were talking earlier, everything is lined up. It's just like it was in the day Jesus came the first time. And it'll be that way again. And you think about it. Rome revived Europe, and we have the European Union today. One language. It was Koine Greek back then. It's English now, but still there was a universal language. I mean, there's so many things you go on and on about the time when Jesus came. The Jews were in Palestine, as it's called today, in Judea. The Jews had a Sanhedrin. They have a Sanhedrin today. The Jews had the Pharisees who were attacking the apostles. And he's writing an article right now about the Pharisees of the modern day, the Orthodox, attacking Messianic Jewish Christians today. It's just like when Jesus came the first time. The stage is being set beyond anything we can imagine. Turn over to 2 Thessalonians now, and chapter 2. And let's just read 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I'll read verse 1. You guys jump in verse 2, and we'll read 1 through 3. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto Him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come, 1, a falling away first, and 2, that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So, the rapture will take place, and you don't have to worry about going through the tribulation, because there will be what is called a great falling away. Now, the rapture is the reason for that great falling away. But as we speak, the great falling away is taking place. The structure, the infrastructure of the apostasy is being laid. And then when the rapture takes place, there will still be a church. A huge church. And the ecumenical groups are bringing them all together so that when the rapture takes place, everybody will just fall in line. I believe they'll fall in line behind the Pope. And the Pope will be the international leader of this religion. And they will totally throw off Jesus Christ and follow this other Christ. Who? The man of perdition, the son of perdition. Man of sin. So you have to step back now and say, now this is what's going to happen. Is the world ready for this? I think so. The ecumenical movement and the whole one world religion, that's the theme that you hear everybody chanting. And I don't mean all the really wacko people. I mean, all for years the hippies have all been saying, oh, let's just get along. You know, and that's the kind of thing that you've seen in a lot of groups for years. But we were talking about the other day, every one of the recent presidents have said, all paths lead to God. Whether it's Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Nancy Reagan speaks for Ronald now, and she has said it. Before them was Jimmy Carter.